I think everyone today, whoever know about Piers Morgan, will call him beyond pathetic. A person who is beyond pathetic. Let's take a look at this video from Anna Kasparian, how she is destroying him on his show.
Without 9/11,
exactly
George
true.
W. Bush's
Okay, so
peaceful.
events knock off your agenda very quickly if you're not careful. And I want to bring you in on another part of all this. Again, the D's, deportations, but a slight variant, which is student deportations. We've seen this big row, obviously, recently about the Columbia University student who was alleged to be pro-Hamas. It seems to be a bit of a foggy picture as to whether he was or not. But this principle of deporting students for their political allegiances or views, where do you sit on that? Bernie Sanders says this is not democracy. You can't exile political dissidents, not in the United States.
Well, I mean, our government will certainly try to do that as long as the government of Israel demands it. And our government, whether you're talking about Democrats or Republicans, is completely controlled by the Israeli government, and they're going to do the Israeli government's bidding. That's what this is really about. That's all it is. So protesters who are legal residents, permanent residents who have green cards, will be deported simply for exercising their freedom of speech and criticizing how the Israeli government is prosecuting this war in Gaza, slaughtering tens of thousands of innocent women, children, elderly people, civilians. They're going to continue the slaughter. They don't want any backlash from anyone in the United States about it, including American citizens, including permanent residents. And remember, Miriam Adelson and the Adelson family overall gave Donald Trump hundreds of millions of dollars to not do what's right for the United States, but to do what's right for Israel. So Donald Trump is going to do that. He's transactional. Money talks for him, and he doesn't care. He'll go ahead and revoke green cards and deport valedictorians, students who have been in this country since they were 7 years old, were valedictorians in high school. But God forbid they ever ding or criticize the Israeli government, because that's when they'll become a target.
What if they actively support Hamas?
It is amazing.
Well, there is zero evidence that they have actively supported Hamas, as Piers Morgan would love all of us to believe that somehow these people are Hamas members, they are pro-Hamas, and that they're bad for our society.
Look, I despise Hamas, and it disgusts me that anyone would say anything positive about Hamas. But our freedom of speech indicates that we are allowed to even be supportive of the KKK, be supportive of Nazis, be supportive of terrorists.
But that applies to American naturalized citizens. If you've come in on a green card, right? If you say on your green card you support a organisation that is a prescribed terror group in the United States, you don't get your green card. That is the argument Marco Rubio made. I thought it was quite a good one. I mean, I haven't got a green card, but I have a visa, and they're very stringent about all these kind of things, right? If you aligned yourself with a terror group,
you know that.
If you aligned yourself with a terror group, you wouldn't get in.
The only good thing that Piers Morgan is good at, there's nothing good about him, but if there's one thing he's really good at is peddling lies very, very consistently, non-stop. When he was definitely referring to Mahmoud Khalil, when he applied for the green card, he did not leave out anything that would sound the alarm that he's somehow a Hamas or a pro-Hamas member or a Hamas supporter. He did not hide any of those details. He made it absolutely plain and clear on his papers that this is what he stands for, this is what he's going to do, and United States government at that time, the immigration had absolutely no problem. Now, Piers Morgan, obviously, as a liar, he's trying to make us all believe that Mahmoud Khalil, he lied on his papers before he received his green card, and that he should be held accountable. Recently, there is this another court order where now they're trying to find the Donald Trump administration any connection between Hamas and Mahmoud Khalil. They couldn't find a single one. So what they do, they go with the UNRWA. So Anwara, if you remember, this United Nations organization, UNRWA. Now they're saying that this is a outlaw organization, Anwara, and anybody supports that will be considered as a threat, as someone who is also a pro-Hamas, and therefore they're now using that Mahmoud Khalil's support for Anwar. I think he worked for them, but this is a United Nations organization anyway. So now they're using that as a pretext to deport him, but obviously they're losing the case in the court. But at the end of the day, all of this drama is being created with the narrative that anybody who will be supporting Palestine, who will be against genocide, will be targeted.
So why should you stay
Right,
in?
well,
Is my
visa
point.
and a green card is hold on, Piers, hold on. Visa and green card is different, as you
Of
know.
course, yeah.
Someone who's a permanent legal resident is, it's like one tiny step lower than a naturalized citizen. And the point is, whatever allegation the Trump administration is making against these green card holders, it needs to be adjudicated by a judge. Again, it goes back to the issue of due process. If you guys are comfortable with an executive branch official, simply one person unilaterally deciding without any due process that someone has done something wrong and now their green card should be revoked, I think that's setting a really, really bad and dangerous precedent. Again,
Okay.
that concentrates too much power among a very small group of people, and I think people deserve due process.
Okay.
Have a judge weigh in and determine whether or not this person is actually a threat to the United States or our national security, and then make that decision.
Okay. But
for
Benny-
some reason, they don't want to do that.
All right, Benny, Trump has banned the AP from the White House, refusing to rename the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. He's kicking out student protesters for having views he doesn't like. He wants CNN to be banned from the airwaves and so on. A lot of people saying, hang on, aren't you supposed to be Mr. Free Speech, Mr. President? Aren't you and Elon Musk the standard
way you
bearers
ask
of free speech? What happened to free speech? Is it only free speech when you like what you're hearing?
I love the way that you ask these questions, Piers. You're like my schizophrenic aunt. It's like Thanksgiving dinner after a box of wine. Because in 1 second, you're like, Anna, this scum should have been deported as a member of Hamas. This scum said that they need to be out. And he said the end of Western civilization is what they're here for, which, in fact, they did. And then in the same question, you're like, Trump's just deporting students because he doesn't like what they say.
Right.
You can't have it both ways, Piers.
Well,
is this
actually,
guy
I can.
a supporter of a terrorist group or not?
As somebody asking the questions, I can ask you all different questions phrased in different ways.
But
On this issue of free speech, has the Trump administration been consistent? We might find this student, Mahmoud Khalil's views loathsome. There's no apparent, so far, hard evidence he has been pro-Hamas, and he disputes that. If it turns out he's not been actively pro-Hamas and we can't find actual words coming out of his mouth to show that, is it right that a green card holder in America should be thrown out of the country?
Wait a second. So Piers Morgan is now pivoting from his earlier position where he accused Mahmoud Khalil as pro-Hamas member, and therefore he should be deported. That's exactly what he said, Piers Morgan. But now, even his own people, the guy on the screen, is calling him out for the double standard. He said, Piers Morgan, 1 second you are saying this, and the next second you are saying quite the opposite. Piers Morgan, he is always doing that. To run his show, to make him look like someone who is very neutral, he will change, he will pivot. But obviously he gets caught, because at the end of the day, most of the things that he says, they're complete lie without any evidence. He accused October 7 Hamas attacks. He accused the Hamas members of raping children, burning children, all of this nonsense stuff. But he had absolutely no proof. Exactly same thing what he's doing here. Without any proof, without any evidence, he's just babbling.
Listen, I'm not an expert on this case. I'm not a green card expert either. So I'm just going to go very quickly to the simple example of you're a guest here, all right? And if you go to another country, and Americans go and travel abroad to tons of countries, every country on earth right now has an American traveling abroad. If that American decided to support a terrorist faction or behave in a way that was criminal and illegal, right, which is what was happening when you were barricading and burning down and harming students and threatening students, then expect to be kicked out of that country. It's pretty logical, right? And I don't think that free speech has anything to do with it. And as you stated, free speech applies to American citizens, either native born or naturalized. That the Constitution applies to us, not to guests here. So
Okay.
it's the same thing as the criminal alien argument.
All right.
You don't get the same rights if you are a guest.
Okay, so that is news to me. That is news to me. If you are in the States on a visitor visa or on a green card even, you cannot express your opinion. Okay, I didn't know that. Well, I mean, it is obvious these days in the States that freedom of speech is all about everything else other than the Zionist entity. The moment you talk about Israel, the moment you call them out for the genocidal, lunatical behavior, we do not have the same right, constitutional right, as someone who is from United States with a passport. Okay, I didn't know that. This is absolutely a news to me. But is it true? Is it true? I don't know. You can let me know in the comment section below that a visitor, a visa holder or a green card holder doesn't have the same right when it comes to freedom of speech as opposed to someone who is a born American. I didn't know. Let me know in the comment section below.
Here, especially if you came here illegally, right?
Although, funny enough, I did discover when Alex Jones tried to have me deported for my views on gun control, I did discover that First Amendment rights apply to me, even though I'm not a citizen, if I'm in America. And so Barack Obama saved me for the gleeful American nation by saying I was entitled under my First Amendment rights, even though I'm not a citizen, to be critical of the Second Amendment. And so I was allowed to stay. So
I thought you were allowed to stay.
I did get exactly the same rights to free speech that you did in your country. And I was very grateful, by the way. Brian.
I thought you were allowed to stay because you played the pigeon lady in Home Alone 2, and it's a classic.
Right.
Benny's wrong. The Supreme Court has ruled that guests here are entitled to rights under our Constitution while they're here as well. And look, the truth is that if we are...
Okay, so I think I got my answer. So again, Piers is lying, and his guest, pro-Zionist, pro-genocide, the guest is lying, and he is getting called and doesn't have any shame. Same thing all the time.
If we are actually abiding by this idea,
attacking students, right, and like attacking universities and barricading yourself.
I mean,
that's not a right under the Constitution.
I'm saying physically attacking or verbally.
I'm saying it's bad behavior if you're a guest in a country. That's all I'm saying. You know, I am a massive free speech.
Okay, so now it's a bad behavior if you act like that. If you are going out and doing protest, you have the right to do so, but that's a bad behavior. So from you have no right, you have absolutely no constitutional right to it. It's a bad behavior. Don't do it. So this guy, I mean, these people are absolutely shameless.
I'm not going to sit here and say, you should be kicked out because of your speech. I'm talking about
but you kind of
a series of criminal behavior.
Yeah, you kind of are. Come on, you are.
Series of,
you're saying if you're a guest in the United States,
even Piers Morgan is calling him out. Why are you changing now? Why did he say just now that you cannot have freedom of speech because you're on a visa status or a green card holder status, and then the next time you say that no, you can actually, but it's a bad behavior? I mean, this is so ridiculous. Like this extremist groups, the far right in the States. Kirk Charlie, have you seen him talking? Oh my God, that guy's another liar. These people, they don't know how to stop lying.
And
if you say something we don't like, we're going to throw you out.
Man, I didn't want to get caught in this because I do not know. I will tell you straight out. There's a lot of people that are experts in the, what's his name?
Mahmoud Khalil.
Okay, so there's a lot of people that are experts in everything he's ever done. I'm not one of them. All right. So and there's a lot of so I'm not one of them. So I'm not really going to argue like for or against this guy, to be honest with you.
No, but you're saying if a guest behaves badly, you should be allowed to throw them out. And as Brian rightly points out,
riots,
you are kind of saying if you don't like what he says, you can kick him out.
The riots at the schools were criminal. The barricading of the schools,
well,
the threatening of students, the threatening of teachers, the smashing of the doors. Like, this is criminal behavior.
If you break the law,
if you're a guest here,
law, no, well, hang on. If you're a guest in America and you break the law, absolutely, that's grounds for deportation. There is no evidence that Mahmoud Khalil has broken the law, which is a pretty significant part of this. He's just been targeted, and Marco Rubio hasn't even tried to use that argument. All he said is, if he had said on his green card application that he supported Hamas, he wouldn't have been allowed in. But then it comes to, is there any actual evidence he has openly supported Hamas? There doesn't so far seem to be any. Brian?
That's for investigators, man. I'm not the expert on this guy.
You're expert in nothing except in lying. That's what you're expert in. And people like you, all of you are expert in lying through your teeth all the time, and getting called and having no shame about this whatsoever.
Judges.
Put it perfectly. The reality is that you cannot both claim that you are a free speech absolutist while claiming that if somebody says something that doesn't comport with your political ideology, that they should just be kicked out of the country. This is the hypocrisy being put on full display. There's really no other way to cut it. Even if you are diametrically opposed to what he advocates for, if you are in favor of our First Amendment, if you are a free speech absolutist, there's one way to show it. And what this administration is doing is showing that they're not. They only want people who are going to echo or mirror political ideology that comports with their own views.
Okay,
exactly.
I want to end by asking all of you to sum up Trump's first 10 or so weeks back in the White House with 3 words. So, Benny, I'll start with you. 3 words to summarize it.
Yep, here we go. You ready?
Yep.
I've been thinking about this for a while.
Wow, ready? Yeah.
So glad you asked. Deport Piers Morgan.
Well, Alex Jones tried. He failed. It was deemed that I was too essential to the well-being of Americans.
Yeah, these guys beyond pathetic. I don't know if I should play the rest of the video, but let's see what Anna has to say.
To be kept. No, but to be serious, how would you summarize? Give me 3 words to summarize how you think Trump has done so far.
Golden era energy.
Okay. Anna?
I'm so tired. That's the way to describe it.
It is exhausting. I mean, for anyone in the media business, it is relentless and exhausting. It's great for business. We can all pretend it isn't, but it is fantastic for business. If we had Kamala Harris running the United States, I wouldn't have a show by now. So it is incredibly good for everyone in our game. But my God, it is exhausting. Brian, 3 words.
You would have been deported under Kamala.
I would. Brian.
Ready, fire, aim.
Ready, fire, aim. What do you mean by that?
I mean that he's not thinking through what he's doing. He would rather just fire before he actually aims, and we're seeing things get broken as a result.
This is
Wow. So again, very interesting discussion, but of course, we just wasted a little bit of time listening to that guy talking about Mahmoud Khalil without any knowledge, and he admitted it that I'm not an expert in green card and all that. So why would you make any comments if you don't have any knowledge, if you're not an expert? But they would continue to lie until they get caught, and then they will change and be like, oh yeah, I'm not an expert.